in the bleak midwinter, when the weather is icy, when the rain is freezing, when the snow is falling, and when the frost is heavy. Welcome to your spell of warming winter sunshine that is the Guns and Yellow Ribbons preview podcast. Tonight we'll look forward to this weekend's Premier League games, but most importantly, we'll talk about the mighty Arsenal's trip to Wolves. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. This is your Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Enjoy the show.
My God, Trevor, I didn't know if we were going to have Shakespeare and Charles Dickens or whatever in the bleak midwinter. Jesus Christ, man, on a bike.
There's nothing wrong with a good intro, Fergus, let me tell you. How you doing, mate?
When are you going to do the good intro then, Trev? Because what the bloody hell was that?
Oh, listen to him.
Oh dear.
Anyway.
I'm doing all right, mate. I'm doing all right. It's Friday night. I'm actually quite weary. Been a long week, and I came back from the Champions League game, and I got home when the wife had just got in just before us, and then we sat down, we started chatting. Then it was like 1:15 in the morning by the time we went to bed. So I've not caught up on the sleep properly since. So yeah, Dan, saw you on Wednesday. Enjoy the game.
Yeah, I did actually. I've started to enjoy a few games like that, mate, where it's a bit more chilled out. Go there just to watch football as if I'm watching it at home, but I can see it in the flesh. And whenever you come away with a win, clean sheet, Champions League, it's always a good thing. So come away smiling.
Brilliant. I didn't go midweek because I've been poorly. I'm still poorly, to be honest, but I'm getting out of my sick bed to go to the game tomorrow. I'm not drinking. I'm going to watch a game of football. Then I'm disappearing again. So I'm looking forward to being back around the place, but I'm also looking forward to a bit of winter sunshine next week, Dan, hopefully.
Well, I don't know what we'll get up in Barcelona, Girona way, mate, but I don't think it's going to be too warm. It might be 100-mile-an-hour winds still over there.
It could be. I mean, I looked at the weather this week and it was like 17, 18, maybe 19, which was a vast improvement on what we're seeing here at the moment. So anyway, listen, Wednesday night we play Zagreb. I thought it was really imperative that we got the win. And looking at the table now after the round of games, it was absolutely imperative that we got the win because it eases the pressure greatly. Ferg, are we through yet?
We're through. In theory, 15 points is what the supercomputer figured out would be enough for, and 16 points goal difference. It will be a key to see where we finish in that top 8. But I think we're through for sure in like the top 24. But I'm confident that we're through in the top 8 as well. The further up that table we finish, well, it doesn't matter when you look at what's down the bottom. I think I didn't keep that text that you sent, Dan, but when you look further down the bottom, and we'll probably look at it on Monday, the possible opponents that you can have. We could end up still playing Real Madrid and Man City, or hopefully not, and how we'll laugh. But yeah, Zagreb though didn't really offer anything. It was nice to watch a game of football, Dan, as you say, like as we're watching on TV. But I could quite easily have done it sat at home with a kebab and a beer on the big TV as well. It wasn't the most exciting game in the world. It was good to see players looking a bit fitter, like Odegaard and Rice looked more back to themselves. But yeah, Zagreb, they weren't very good.
Yeah, I mean it's strange, Ferg, isn't it? I mean, when this format was first announced, Dan, I thought, there's some opportunities for some teams to get some really easy paths into the next round through this league. But there's a lot of big teams that are still struggling that even definitely aren't going to get in the top 8, aren't they, Dan?
But I think that's down to the format, to be honest. And I know the format's had a lot of criticism from some people, but for me, I think the format's thrown up some really good games. And it's also thrown up a format where the smaller teams can see a way through. and it's meant less teams have qualified early and less dead rubber games, because you normally get to the final game of a group stage, and at best you're playing for first or second, as opposed to, are you still going to go through? And when you combine all the teams together, like you look at where we can physically finish, the worst case scenario, I think it's down in like 11th or 12th or something. There's lots of things still to play for, lots of places to play for. It's going to be interesting what happens with the next round and the format for that draw, because like Fergus said, you can end up playing very, very good teams at the minute. And it wouldn't surprise me if you get to the 90th minute and you're 1-0 up in a game. What happens if, as it stands, you're going to go play Real Madrid, but if you concede a goal, you go and play a smaller team? Well, our team's going to be thinking that. Yeah. I know I would be thinking that if there was an easier route through. So it's going to be interesting how teams play that, I think, towards the end. But I think we are through. In all fairness, we could lose, and we need like a 10-goal swing to not go through. So I think we're through. I would definitely be rotating a few players for the next game, protect some injuries in the areas where we need to, but not too much so that we can't pick our next game as such.
Just to clarify, when we say we're through, we mean in the top 8, don't we? Just to clarify for people, we're talking about the top 8. Do you know what, Dan? I honestly hope that Arteta sticks to what I believe he's been doing this season in playing his strongest team available, or almost his strongest team available. I want us to play well at Wolves tomorrow with our strongest team and put a strong side out in Girona and put that game to bed. We've got a win if we finish in the top 8, we've got some time off, haven't we? And there's an international break coming. So that's the time to rest them all and hopefully get these players fit, Ferg, isn't it?
It is. But I want to just pick up on what Simon said in the chat. Asking people to go to 5 home games in a fortnight, 19 days, I think it was, is a tough ask, especially in January. And people were knocking some fans and saying, how many empty seats. Like most of the stadium, I think probably all bar about 4 blocks had seats available at 3:00 on Wednesday afternoon. And I contemplated it as well. I daren't look at my. I've just got paid today, thankfully, but I daren't look at my bank account yesterday because it's been horrendous. Yes, we paid for our tickets in advance because it's part of our season ticket, but there's trains, there's food, there's beer.
Yeah.
No,
mate, it's a massive point. It's a huge point, and it should be a talking point as well. And it should be something that that our supporters, various teams, supporters associations, should be looking at, or trust should be looking at, because.
But I do think
it has got a lot more expensive to watch football, particularly this season. I think that's how I'm feeling, Ferg.
Yeah, and I agree. But I do think with the new format, the fact that we're playing Dynamo Zagreb and then we've got Girona away, there's no really standout games. When it was the group stage, you had like a game home and away against a big team, a game home and away, because we normally were in pot 2, say, at a decent European side, and then maybe a lesser team if you were in a safe group for the dead rubber, as you said, Dan. But that did feel like a dead rubber, and as have most of the games, and that's why the atmosphere has been weird. And you saw around us, how many people did you recognise around us?
Well, firstly, it shouldn't be a dead rubber because that game was huge. Firstly, in qualifying the top 8, generating revenues for the club to be able to spend when people criticise the club for not spending. It's avoiding having to play 2 extra games with an already stretched squad. It's pretty much stopped us from what I would say would be guaranteed points dropped in February, because with those 2 extra games, in and amongst the games we've already got with a stretched squad, you can guarantee with some rotation needed, there could be points dropped. I would say that we would have ended up dropping some points somewhere. So I think this has also helped us in the league. I'm not sure I really buy what you guys are saying fully about the fans and the 5 home games in a row. And I'll explain why. I think that pressure from cost towards fans is a 100%. Like, I agree with you. I don't think that's the reason why people have picked and choose not to go to that game. I think if that was another Tottenham game or a game of that caliber, fans would have been going to that. They've chosen not to go to that game because of what they perceive it to be a dead rubber.
Yeah.
Even the 5 games in a short space of time, mate, there are 2,000-3,000 strong Arsenal fans that do that week in, week out, not just across 1 month of the season. They're doing that across 9-10 months of it, where they're going to every game. So I think it's just down to its choice at the end of the day. Some people are choosing not to go because they would rather not be at a game on a cold Wednesday night, and they'd rather save some money. It's a life choice.
You know what, though? I think the atmosphere has been not as buoyant as they were previously, especially on the midweek games. With the exception of North London Derby, they've been pretty flat. I think that puts some people off as well. One final thing, Trevor, and then I'll let you do the
I would add to that, by the way, illness changes things, because
there's been a lot around.
And if people don't feel great, then I'm not expecting them to go out, stand in the cold and watch a game of football. So that does make
for sure. For sure. Simon, again, a good point. AST, the Arsenal Supporters Trust, have asked for a possibility of a season ticket next year to incorporate just league games. I wonder how that would be received. Personally, I don't want that, because all they'll do is take away the Champions League games, not give you an option to buy them. You'll be paying 40, 50, 60, 70 pound a pop for a game. And I doubt your season ticket is going to go down that much. It might drop by about 100 quid, but you watch it creep back up again, because they've done it already, where we used to have 7 cup games included in, like, 3 European and 2 FA Cup games were included in our season ticket. It's now just 4 European games, and it was 3 the season before in the old format. So for me, considering they're the Arsenal Supporters Trust, I find it a bit disappointing that they're asking Arsenal to water down the season ticket. Trevor, your thoughts?
I think that it's something that can be looked at. I can't see there's anything wrong with looking at that. It depends on what options they offer you as a season ticket holder for the cup games, and there obviously will still be an option that we have now to have your season ticket valid for all the games. It's just worth remembering that whatever happens, the people that run football won't lose money. You know, if we think we're saving it, maybe we will, maybe we won't. But the people that run football, I'm not talking about Arsenal specifically there. I'm talking about the bigger picture of the people that run football clubs. They won't lose any money for any reason whatsoever by helping fans out. Not a chance. Not a chance. That's my opinion. I hope I'm wrong, actually. But my opinion is that football clubs will not help the fans out at a cost to themselves.
Well, if we get to the Champions League final, we've got 3 more European games at the Emirates. They're now knockout games, so they'll be categorized probably as category A games, you would expect. I would imagine. So for our seats, which are the cheapest in the stadium, it's £70. Dan, yours is slightly dearer, probably about 80 quid a pop. So I've got to pay, on top of over £1,000 for my season ticket. I've paid for a few League Cup games. I've paid for an FA Cup game, and I've got another £210 to pay for the remaining Champions League games. It's 1,500 quid from £1,000. I just worry about the creep.
It's an interesting point, Ferg. It really is an interesting point. And what Dan said earlier about people choosing what games they go to, I sort of agree with Dan, but I look at it from a slightly different view in that I reckon people come to Christmas and they looked at January and they thought, oh, blimey, look at all those games in January. There's no way I can go to all of them. So which one can I miss? And in January, we've had Villa, we've had Tottenham, we've had Man United, and we've had Newcastle. So if you've got to choose to miss a game, which one was you going to choose to miss? It was always going to be Zagreb at home. It was always going to be.
I don't mind fans picking and choosing, by the way. Like, I understand it. That how many people are you going to actually be able to throw your hat on and say, okay, they're going to go to every game? It's a minority compared to the whole amount of fans that attend in the stadium. But I guess what I don't like is that you get fans that don't attend, put their ticket on the exchange, but they still get their credit for utilisation. I don't think that's right. I think we should be giving credit to fans that are physically going to matches, home, away, and all over Europe. And you know, even like the cup final policies at times, I think have been just a little bit not too inclusive of the people that are going to every game and the home games, and they all count towards going. You know, you got yourself, Trevor, as an example, that travels probably further for home games than most people do for away games. So, like, how is that not being given as a credit towards cup finals and things like that. I think that's where I would like the club to be looking at more so than removing games from my season ticket. More so, I'd like them to add it and guarantee me a ticket for every game. Stop me having to do admin for every cup or whatever we have to do.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, I've missed more games this season than I have in many previous seasons, simply because I'm getting on a bit and I have been suffering with some illness.
Tourist.
It's my attendance, but I still want to be able to choose to go to cup games if I want to go. I'll still buy that season ticket. Lastly, before we move on, Gary Jones here is exactly right. I'm sorry, Ferg. Don't know if you'd already put this up. Absolutely, I think that football clubs would love, Premier League football clubs would love to get rid of season tickets.
Yeah, Man City are doing it already. Their expansion that they're doing, no season ticket holders. Anybody who's got a season ticket at Man City, if you surrender your season ticket due to affordability or illness or death or whatever, it will not be replaced by a new season ticket holder.
Yeah, that's disgraceful.
Yep.
Football from that perspective has gone.
Come on, it's Friday. We need to cheer ourselves up.
We wanted to try and keep this to an hour, and we've already gone over a quarter of an hour without even talking about a football match. So look, let's whiz through them. Southampton v Newcastle, right? Southampton at home to Newcastle. Southampton can't win a game for toffee. Newcastle should go there and win, I reckon, Dan, shouldn't they?
They should. I mean, do they have one eye on the midweek game? That puts a different spin on it for me because I think Newcastle's biggest game is still against us shortly after coming up, as opposed to the league games at the minute. So you never know. And I think as much as Southampton, probably one of the worst sides, if not the worst side, definitely this season in the Premier League, actually watching them play, they're not a bad side. They've got some good players there. And I think at home, there's always a period of a season where these teams that are struggling pick up a big result, and they do start to pick up a few little results at home. It wouldn't surprise me if this could be the game for them, if I'm honest. But I don't think it will be as one way as people think it'll be. I do think Newcastle definitely the better side, and just Southampton can't seem to defend. I think that's their problem. So Southampton will probably go on the attack, and I think Newcastle will probably hit on the counter, and they might end up winning 2-1.
Newcastle for Dan. Do you know what, Ferg? I'm just going to put my toothpenny in here before we come across to you, mate. I have the same view as Dan, actually. I fed him a line there and he didn't take it. I have the same view as Dan. I think it's time for Southampton to get the odd result they're going to get this season. And I quite fancy Southampton to draw with Newcastle this weekend. 1-1 I've gone for. Ferg?
Well, to be honest, it's really interesting. This weekend is the exact reverse fixtures of the first game of the season. And the first game of the season at Newcastle was 1, Southampton 0. Aaron Ramsdale will be assessed for an injury. Nick Pope might get his first game since December. Newcastle looking for the 7th consecutive win over Southampton in all competitions. Southampton have just won one of the past 13 games against Newcastle. I don't think Southampton are going to win. I can see goals because, Southampton can score a few goals and they did do okay last weekend. I've gone for a bit of a goal fest. I've gone for Southampton 2, but a Newcastle away win 3.
Well, okay then. Should be a good game to watch then. Next one. So, Liverpool v Ipswich, right? Poor Ipswich. They're trying their hardest, I think. Whenever I see Ipswich, I think them boys are really trying. They're really playing for that manager. But they just don't seem good enough. I worry that Ipswich might be underneath a rugby score this weekend, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, Ipswich started the season right, and they picked up a few draws, didn't they? And they were keeping in games. As much as they still wasn't winning, they were keeping tight in games. And just the last few weeks, you've seen those results now slip away from them a little bit. I think they lost, was it 4-0 to Newcastle, 6 at City. They've just started to be found out a little bit more, and I think now their intro to the Premier League is hitting a bit harder. So unfortunately, I do think this is going to be a pretty big win for Liverpool. I really hope it isn't, but I think it could be like a 3 or 4-0 to Liverpool.
Do you know what, Ferg? I think it could be more than 3 or 4. I do. Honestly think we could be in danger of seeing a very high scoring game by the Liverpool team here. Can you make a case for Ipswich at all, mate?
No.
Okay, moving on.
No, seriously, I've gone. I've gone 4-0. I've gone 4-0 for Liverpool. It was 2-0 in the reverse fixture. They're without Smodics, Ogbene, and Chaplin. Ipswich will struggle. Konate, I believe, is available again for Liverpool. It's just really, really going to be difficult. Ipswich have won the last 2 of the last 3 Premier League games away to Liverpool, but 4-0.
Fergus, who's telling you how to pronounce all these names, mate?
Nobody.
You've been practicing all afternoon, haven't you?
Mr. Jameson's helped me out.
You've never got them right like that before. Not a chance you've not been practicing them.
2 of them play for Ireland.
No, you've been practicing all afternoon.
Smodics played for Ireland, so does Ogbene.
No
Listen
chance.
to him showing off now.
Something's gone wrong.
Listen to him showing off now, Ferg. Knock it on the head, will you? Take your win. Take your win. Listen, boys. Brighton v Everton, right? Brighton v Everton. Do you know what? The last couple of times I've watched Brighton, I've took a bit of a disliking to them. They've turned into a bit of a dirty team. They've picked up a few tricks of the trade, and I'm not happy with Brighton at all. I'm really not happy with them, and maybe that's because they're playing all right and starting to kick people a bit and dive on the floor more often. But I've gone off Brighton, Everton, but I can't see anything other than a Brighton win, Dan.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brighton's a pretty good side, to be honest. Like Belieber and Ayari midfield, I think are a settled 2 for them now. And it's when they've got all their players fit in attack, that's when I think you see the best of Brighton. They're a very good pressing side. If Welbeck's back with Pedro off of him, I think Pedro is much better when he's not playing in that forward role, when he's got someone up there with him and he can float around. And then you've got the likes of Mitoma, I think, who's a great player and very underrated. You got Minte, who came from, was it Newcastle, I think, earlier this season when they bought him this year. 2 very good wide men as well. They work hard. They're very good on the ball as well. I think I wouldn't even say they're underrated at this now, because I think everybody realises how good they are at playing out from the back and progressing a bit like we do in the sort of first 2 thirds of the pitch. So they're a very good side, Brighton. I think Everton away from home, not the same team as they are at home with their fans behind them. I do think Everton lack quality, although they had a pretty good first half against Spurs the other day. But that's Spurs for you, isn't it, really? So I'll go with, I think this could be a 3-1 win for Brighton.
3-1 win for Brighton. Ferg, now then, Everton, new manager. Moyes is back at Everton. Does that make a difference?
He understands. Listen, we know what it is about Arteta understanding the culture of Arsenal, so I think that could have a bearing. He's very pragmatic. He is just Sean Dyche 2.0, really, isn't he? To a certain degree, he's very defensive in his style. I don't think Everton on the road are great. I think Brighton at home are really, really strong. Brighton can complete the double over Everton for the first time ever in the Premier League, and they've been in the same league for 12 seasons. It was 3-0 at Goodison. I think, like Dan said, I think it's going to be 3-1 to Brighton at the Amex.
3-1. So we've all gone for Brighton then. It's sensible, yeah. I think. Sensible. Can't see it going any other way, to be honest. Now, Bournemouth v Nottingham Forest, right, boys? I'm going to say something now that I never thought I would say at the start of the season. Ever thought I would say at the start of the season. Can Bournemouth do the Arsenal a favour and beat Forest, Ferg?
Don't think they can beat them. It was a draw at the City Ground. I think it'll be a draw again. Bournemouth are a decent outfit. That player that Dan wants, the winger, what's his name, Dan? I can't remember.
You try and pronounce it, mate. Go on. You're on a good roll.
I can't remember his name to pronounce it.
I'm not helping you out now. Now you know how to pronounce names.
It begins with S anyway. I don't know. He decent player. I think they've got a decent squad, Bournemouth, and they've got a good manager. So I've gone for 1-1 Bournemouth versus Forest.
Well, do you know what, Dan? I'm letting my heart rule my head and I'm going for a Bournemouth win. I'm disagreeing with Ferg. I'm going to go with Bournemouth doing us a favour and winning 2-1. But also bearing in mind Bournemouth have beaten some bloody good sides down at their place this year, you know. Can they continue to trend, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, they can. They're a very good side, especially at home. The unfortunate thing for Bournemouth is Evan Nilsson, I think, is out with a broken foot. Enes Unal, I think, is also out injured. I think Sinistera's also got a knock. So they're missing a few players up top. Semenyo, who Fergus's name he wanted to remember.
Semenyo, that was it, yeah.
He had played up top for a game as well. Normally plays out on the wing. He's still a very, very good player. I think Clivert as well is a very good player for Bournemouth. They've got some great attacking players still.
What a hat trick! What a hat trick last weekend.
Yeah, he's normally a penalty merchant, but he's a pretty good player. But Semenyo, I would love at Arsenal. I think he's pace, he's power, he's direct. He's not shy of getting shots away. Yeah, I'd love him to come in at Arsenal. I think he could be one of the top targets that we have. But you're talking about a Forest side who defensively are as solid as I think they've been for however many years since they were, champions of Europe. And they've got pace on the attack in Elanga and Hudson-Odoi. They've got Chris Wood, who I don't know how just can't stop scoring now. Gibbs White, I think, helps sort of flow everything together for them. But they're a side that plays still on the counter. And it depends how much Bournemouth are going to really go for this. I think if Bournemouth are a bit more pragmatic at home, I think it would play into their hands a little bit, as opposed to really going for it and Forest hitting them on the counter. So struggling to really separate them. I think for that reason, I'd probably go 1-1. But this is the sort of game that really could go absolutely any direction, and it wouldn't surprise me.
And Bournemouth at home, they've taken some scalps, haven't they? They've done us, they've done City, they've done Liverpool.
You're not just listening to what I was saying.
No,
have you not just listened to what I was saying, folks?
No, not at all. I was reading about the next game.
Well, I said exactly the same thing not more than a minute ago. So, Jesus Christ. Anyway, listen. So, I reckon it'd be a really good game if anyone's watching it. Bournemouth v Forest. I really do. And that Gibbs White fella, I think I reckon he's come on in leaps and bounds this season. Looks a bit clumsy at the start of the season, bit like out of his depth a bit, but he's certainly developed into a fine.
They're going to be missing Hudson-Odoi.
Are they? Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. He's a doubt. He limped off against Southampton with a groin injury.
Okay. But they got is it Jota that can come in? I think on the wing.
Yes.
Pretty good as well.
We're going for 2 draws and a Bournemouth win, and I can see it going either way. The longer you look at that game, you can make reason for it going either way, because they've both got some really good recent form on them. So next, right, a battle of the Blues, the battle of the horrible Blues. Man City v Chelsea. I'd have had Man City down as favourites to win this, thinking they're back in form, been playing quite well, and then they go and do that against PSG on Wednesday, and you think, oh my God, they're really not very good at all. So I quite fancy Chelsea to get a win at City, Dan.
I don't, in all fairness. Chelsea are not PSG at the end of the day. And Chelsea's been in a pretty poor run of form recently. If they played them 4 or 5 weeks ago, I think I probably would have gone for a different result. This time, the timing for them, I think, is pretty poor. And as much as City bottled another lead fantastically during the week, very pleased to smile and say that they've bottled another lead, but they are still a good side, and I just expect at home City still to beat Chelsea. They've got Foden's come into a bit more form. De Bruyne is playing a little bit better. Even like Savinho and Doku have picked up and been a little bit better for them. I think City will edge it. I don't think it will be a huge scoring game. I think it will be quite tight. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a 1-0 or a 2-1 to City.
Fair enough. So I've gone with Chelsea. Dan's gone for City. Do you know, the thing is, right, this City team, are they, after that bad showing in midweek against PSG, against what's not the best PSG side, remember, far from it. They're not knocking any socks off in the Champions League, are they, PSG? Nope. But Man City, how do they bounce back from that against Chelsea, Ferg? By the way, before I come to you, just one thing. I hope City don't keep winning again, because social media, without 10 million Liam Gallagher wannabes giving it the big balls, is lovely. Is lovely without hearing from them. Ferg, tell me about the game, mate.
Well, it was 2-0 when City visited Stamford Bridge. City have gone downhill majorly since. We've all probably seen the clips on social media of De Bruyne telling Pep to
Mr. Beat, Jesus Christ.
My left leg. It was because I kicked my left leg. It's the only one that was working. Pep was telling him to pass and move, and he told him to shut up. There's clearly something wrong in the club. Chelsea are winless in 10 league and cup games against Man City, but I think there will be goals in this game. I can't really separate them. I think Chelsea could win it, but I think it's going to be a draw. I'm going for a Desmond, a 2-2.
2-2. Goals in the game then. Goals in the game. Now, look, right, the next game, we know we're not going to talk about this game for long, right? We're not going to talk about this game for long because, in all fairness, there's never much to talk about. You know, Tottenham v Leicester. Tottenham have been poor. Leicester have been poor. Angie's sticking with his system that seems to be getting them nowhere. Leicester started off all right, but they just can't play well. Ferg, will Ange still have a job the day after this game?
Yeah, Ange will have a job regardless. I don't think they're getting rid of Ange. Will Rude have a job afterwards? That's debatable because I don't think he's. I don't think he's going to win. The last time they played, it was a 1-1 draw. It was Monday Night Football, the first Monday Night Football of the season. I've gone for Spurs to lose, Ange to keep his job, and Rude to keep his job. So it's 1-0 Leicester.
Where are we? So I'm going for Leicester. I'm going 1-0 Leicester as well. Ferg's going 1-0 Leicester. How many are Leicester going to win by, Dan?
Well, first of all, I'm interested to see your views on Ange because I'm watching him recently and I'm really starting to dislike him more than I ever did. I'm finding him stuck up, obnoxious, rude. The way he's speaking to reporters, I'm really starting to dislike him. And, you know, us Arsenal fans trying to do our best to sing to him saying cheer up, and he just doesn't seem to cheer up, does he? Which is such a shame. But
Simon, sorry, Dan, I've cut you off. Simon, you're coming very close to getting a red card from watching this podcast, Simon. You're on a fine line, son. We all like you. We all appreciate your input, but don't step over that line, my mate. Look, it's brought a bit sick to me throat. Carry on, Dan. Sorry, son.
He's only said Spurs could win. Ugh.
Well, I might get there in a minute when I get to that point, right? So, watching Spurs midweek as well, even against a poor side like Hoffenheim, they conceded so many chances and they're all over the place defensively. And I hope they continue to play this Ange ball tactic because it's leaving spaces, creating chances against them. You've got small clubs easily able to beat them. You know, Ipswich even went there and won as well. So, normally, I would have said Spurs at home. You normally think they're a bit better at home than they are away, but teams can go there and get points off them now. So I would like to keep it realistic, though, on this podcast. So I know you both gone for a 1-0 win to Leicester, but come on, Spurs only conceding 1 goal. I've gone 8-0 to Leicester. So
I was just taking a big intake of breath then, ready to rant at you, Danny. You didn't let me down. I can let it out gently. Brilliant. Yeah, in all honesty, it wouldn't surprise me to see Leicester get a result at Tottenham because Tottenham really aren't very good. They really aren't very good at all. And I don't think they're hitting the nail on the head by blaming their injuries either. I think their problems run much deeper than that. Much deeper than that. Right.
Trev,
yeah.
Has Ange lost the room and the team a bit like Guardiola, maybe?
who knows, Danny? Who knows? The way they appear to be with him. When you look when he went over to clap the fans last week, and they were calling him all sorts. The players didn't leave him there. The players were stood around him. But having said that, those players that are stood around him are not very good. Son doesn't look anything like the player he was when he had alongside Kane. He just doesn't look a player at all. Solanke appears to be trying hard, but he's got nothing to play, nothing to do with the ball. I mean, Madison prances around the field and acts like he's prime Lionel Messi when the lad needs to bring himself down a step or two and start playing the basics, because Madison's not very good at all, I don't think. And then, of course, the goalkeeper, in fairness, the young goalkeeper they brought in looked all right, although he doesn't seem to be changing their results, anything. So, yeah, it's hard. It genuinely is hard to make a case for Tottenham beating Leicester. It really is, thankfully. I love it.
It's just this continued cycle, mate. Every single year they bring in a new manager. It picks up for a bit. There's all the hope and whatever that they have. Then it goes downhill. Same cycle, sack the manager. It's their club. It's who they are, and just
it is. Something goes on above management level within Tottenham Hotspur Football Club that breaks managers, right? The list is so long now of managers that have not just gone there and failed. They've gone there and they've left as broken men. That's why I'm so pleased for Nuno at Nottingham Forest. He's picked himself up from being on his backside at Tottenham and actually built a good side in Forest. And I'm over the moon for Nuno. I really am. But when you look at the two prime names, Mourinho and Conte, I mean, Conte in particular, he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Now, that man carries a lot of experience. He can come under pressure and take it. And when you saw him on the telly, you thought, oh, my God, what happens? Just before we finish on this game then, I can see Ferg's brain whirring. Ferg, what's your thoughts, mate?
The thing I find annoying with Ange, he comes across as really... I wouldn't mind having a beer with him. I think if we all sat down and had a beer with him, we'd all have a good old chat. He seems like a proper down to earth guy. I think he can put his arm around players very, very well. But I don't like when he goes on to interviews, and when he's got the ump, he just puts his head down and he grumbles and it reminds me a bit of you, Trev. Just grumbles and groans, but it won't make any eye contact with any of the reporters. I just find it rude. I think,
Ben, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just who I am, mate. But I think the Tottenham squad is decimated. One with injuries, but even if you had all the favourite starting 11, I still don't see many of those starting 11 getting into getting into Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool. I can't see them getting into many of the other squads in the league.
There aren't any, and it just goes to show. The moral of the story is building a shiny, new, all singing, all dancing stadium doesn't make you a big club. If you weren't a big club before, you're not a big club after. And that's the lesson they're learning the hard way, I'm afraid. Right, boys, listen, let's move on. Let's move off of them, right? Little tiny London derby next, but two teams that are playing all right at the minute. Brentford don't like being away from home, though. Palace has started picking up the odd point. I can't split Palace and Brentford. I've gone for a draw. Ferg, your turn to go first, mate.
I've gone for a draw too. I've gone 1-1 for these two. It was 2-1 when it was at the reverse fixture. Palace are unbeaten in 6 at home against Brentford, winning 3 and drawing 3. So I think there's going to be the 4th draw. However, should Brentford win, they'd complete the double over Palace for the first time since 1955-56. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going 1-1.
Dan, I've gone for a draw. Ferg's gone for a draw. We can't split it, Dan.
Well, I'm going to split them for you. I'm going with a Palace win, and I'm going to say it's going to be a win by at least a couple of goals. And I think 3-1 to Palace. And this Brentford side is still a completely different side away from home than they are at home. I also think Palace, if you compare them on paper, player for player, Palace are a better squad than Brentford. Brentford are where they are because they've got a fantastic manager. They've got a fantastically close-knit club, and they've got that small club mentality where they can win games at home. Palace, I think, have got more quality. I think the likes of Eze, I think, has now started to come back into a bit more form. Mateta, he's their number one striker, and they finally been playing him. And
I
don't think he's good enough for us.
He's suited to us, yeah.
I don't think he's good enough for us, but he's a very useful player for a bottom half team. And you play him with Eze, they've put Eddie back on the bench rather than playing him off a striker or out wide, which, he's not that guy. I just think Palace have just built a little bit of confidence again. And at home, I think they'll beat Brentford.
Fair enough. I still want Mateta. I still like to see him coming off the bench in games where we needed a big bulky lump to put himself about on the pitch. I genuinely do. I don't think we'll sign him. I don't think he's Arteta's type of player. But anyway, that's that done. Right,
we're beyond that, mate. As a club,
yeah,
come on, we're much better than that, even as an option off the bench.
Yeah, okay, we'll agree. That's unusual for us not to agree, Dan. Bloody Nora.
We'll have a pint about it on Monday, and we'll discuss it in Barcelona.
Absolutely. So look, right, the battle of the Claret and Blues, right? Villa v West Ham. I'm going to put me 10 penny in here. I can't see anything but a big Villa win. I think Villa are probably going to win about 4-0. I can't see West Ham getting anything at Villa. Dan, you think differently?
Surprisingly, I do.
I thought you might.
Well, I said to you early in the season, I thought Villa would have a drop-off with the Champions League and the games would build up. And at that point, they just kept winning and winning and winning. But they have, in the last month or two, dropped off on what they were. And it's inevitable that the amount of games has an impact on them as a team. They're still a great side, don't get me wrong. Villa, I think Anuno has done a great job there. But there's also been a bit of a pick-up at West Ham as well. I think they are happy to have got rid of, I think, Lopetegui. It wasn't quite suited to the squad that he had. I think he was unlucky because I think he was a good manager, but don't think he quite suited West Ham as a club. So there's always a bit of a bounce with a new manager, and West Ham are going to do what they do best, which is sit in, play on the counter. And I just think with another Champions League game coming up for Villa, which is a huge, huge game, don't forget, for Villa, because they lost in the previous game, they need to now go down and get a result. And I can guarantee there will be a few rotations in that squad because he has to go full strength on next week's game for the Champions League. And I just think because of a few rotations there that the West Ham can nick something. So I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham.
West Ham. So you've made good reason for West Ham there. I think Villa are going to win comfortably. But having said that, Dan's got a point, Ferg, in that Potter's there now. Is Potter back at his level as a manager now?
I think it's a great appointment. I think it's better than Lopetegui. He was poor at Wolves. He got sacked within, I think, a week of starting pre-season. He didn't do too well. I think he didn't last long as the Spanish manager in Real Madrid as well. He's got a good CV, but I know lots of people in jobs who've got great CVs, but not necessarily good at the job. And I don't think he was one of those. Graham Potter, I think, is a good manager. I think he went to Chelsea, was probably a step too far at the time. And also Chelsea was such a mess around that period of time with Tom Bowley coming in, and it wasn't what he signed up to, I don't think. So he's taken some time off, had a lot of garden and leave money, I expect. But I think West Ham is a good fit. I really do think it's a good fit. And it's probably, as much as Moyes has done a great job for them in the past, I think Graham Potter's probably the next stage that they needed in. Like Graham Potter will bring a bit more attacking flair and a bit more, get more out of the team, where Moyes was all about pragmatic football and stability and so on. Saying all of that, I'm predicting that Villa will smash them 4-1.
You know what? I was sitting here looking at your prediction.
Well, you asked me about Potter,
and I'm thinking, how's he going to turn this around and say Villa are going to win by a mile? That's
Oh,
brilliant,
dear.
Ferg. That's brilliant. So 2 for Villa, 1 for West Ham. Dan's made an absolutely really good point about West Ham and why they might get a look in, but I'm sticking with Villa anyway, Dan. So before we talk about the big game of the weekend, we've got one more to cover off, right? Fulham at home to Man United, right? Fulham at home can play good football on their day, really can play football, particularly if they come up against a team that allows them to play good football, you know? Man United struggled again last night. They really did. What way is it going, Ferg?
I don't know, but what do you think about away fans in the home end singing songs and everything? That's shocking, isn't it, boys? But anyway, let's move on. Anyway, let's move on. Fulham versus Man United. That was the opening game. Man United versus Fulham was the opening game on a Friday night at the start of the season. Fulham have had, I think, 1 win in 18 league games at Old Trafford. I don't think it's going to be a brilliant game. Going against what I normally say, because I normally say Fulham are quite... No, actually, I am. I was looking at the wrong result. Going with what I've normally said about Fulham at home are very, very strong. I think that Fulham are possibly going to put another nail in the coffin of the former Lisbon manager, and I think it's going to be 3-1 to Fulham. Sorry, I lost my train of thought completely there.
So, interestingly enough, Ferg's gone 3-1 to Fulham. I think Fulham might win 3-0. I think if Man United play like they did last night against Rangers, then Fulham are quite likely to tear them a new one, from what I've seen. But I'm just waiting now. We go to Dan for the disagreement. Here we go.
Well, I lost my trail of thought as well, and that's because someone mentioned singing songs, and all of a sudden my head just went Samina,
waka waka.
But anyway, there's a time and a place for that. So
I might have a Turkish tonight.
Yeah,
don't fancy it, mate. But back to this game, it's another one I think that, by the way, is not an easy game to call. And Fulham went through a bit of a run where they drew lots of games in a row and couldn't quite get the win. They've won a couple in the last few games now, albeit against Watford and Leicester. They are normally better at home. I don't think they're playing as well as they were a couple of months ago, though. Having said that, this is Man United, and although I think Fulham haven't beat Man United at home for, well, certainly the last so many years, it's been a while since they beat them at home. Man United go away to what is still a tricky ground at times. You know, Fulham have got a big scalp in them if they want to. And I think United have got a few knocks potentially at the back as well, with like De Ligt and Euro and those guys. So for a team that already can't defend, they could be missing a few people. So that has just swayed me a little bit more from going from a draw into what I think could be Fulham nicking their first win at home against United for a while. So I'm going to go 2-1 Man United, 2-1 to Fulham, and I hope that Fulham do beat them, to be honest with you, because it's quite nice to see Man United get battered everywhere they go.
Yeah, unanimous. Then I agree. Dan, unanimous. We've all gone for Fulham, and you know the next couple of games for Man United and Tottenham are quite important, aren't they? Because if they lose their next 2 games, either of those teams, they're right in a relegation battle, aren't they? They really are. They're hovering just above at the moment. But it'd be hilarious to see them in a relegation battle.
Could you imagine bringing Rory to the football and going, how'd you get on the championship last week?
Ferg, I'd go and camp outside his house and shout the scores through a tannoy. Rory, they've lost again. Oh my lord. Right, listen, boys, listen. We've got about 10 minutes left. I want to try and keep it to an hour, right? So let's talk about the most important game of the weekend. You know, Wolves v the Arsenal, right? Kick off tomorrow, 3:00. We're all going to be there. Singing our songs, cheering our boys on, singing song after song after song, cheering our boys on, because that's what supporters do to lift their team, isn't it? You know, I'm a bit worried that we've got the same referee tomorrow that sent Martinelli off for 2 yellow cards in 2 seconds.
Yeah, Oliver.
He likes to be on the headline board, does Oliver, doesn't he? So that worries me a little bit. But I'm also quite happy with with how it went last night for the Arsenal. It was great to see Nwaneri come back on and really play quite a decent cameo role. I was very happy with that. And overall, it's all right to say we want to win there, but it's getting to the stage where, if we're really honest as Arsenal fans, we need to start winning these games. These are the games that we need to go and win to put the pressure on the team above us. Can we do that, Dan?
Absolutely. I've got no doubts we go there and win this weekend. I think we've won 6 in a row in the league against Wolves. The last time we didn't win was that 1-0 loss that we had, as you mentioned a minute ago. So we've turned it around against Wolves, which used to be a tricky place to go. I think at the minute, Wolves are very, very out of form. I said at the start of the season, even under Gary O'Neill, I don't think they're a great side. I don't think they're a great squad, really. And you've got the likes of Cunha and Guedes and Larson, etc. up top that, yeah, they can cause you problems, but we're so good as a team of suffocating and pinning teams back that I don't think we'd give them a sniff. I really think we can go there and win, but win big as well. My only caveat to that is I hope Cunha hasn't got a point to prove and he goes and has a worldie of a game. But if, as rumours suggest, Saliba could be in and out of the squad, that would be a huge boost. If he's any way a doubt, I wouldn't be risking him. Certainly wouldn't be playing him midweek either and keep him fresh for the Man City game. But we're a good squad. We can cope with it. We need to start strong, though, because we know we've got a lack of depth in a minute and a lack of options off the bench. So I'm expecting us to go there and score 2s and 3s. I think we'll also go there and keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to go for 3-0.
3-0. Do you know what? Funnily enough, Dan, my thoughts are exactly the same. I fancy a 3-0 to the Arsenal. Couple of points you've made there that are really, really important. And I want to add one to them and then chuck it all at Ferg. Firstly, I think Saliba is key. We miss that lad so badly. We really do. Not just for Saliba's solo performances in a game, but for the fact that he now plays as a partner with Gabriel, and it breaks that partnership. It's massive, I think, to see Saliba back. And for me, if we've got someone fit that can come back and play right back, and we can play Partey in the midfield, then I think that makes us a winning side every time. Every time. And just before I come to you, Ferg, I'm going to chuck 3 points at you. I don't normally do that, but you normally do it to me. So I honestly feel that I owe Jorginho an apology, because for weeks now, been mentioning the midfield triangle, Marino, Partey, right, and Rice, Marino, Partey, Rice, Marino, Partey, Rice. And Jorginho's name doesn't pass our lips very often. Well, mine certainly, right? And I think I owe him an apology because last night when he played, or Wednesday night when he played, I thought he was absolutely superb. And I read a post on social media. I do apologise. I can't remember who put it now. Having Jorginho on the field was like having a manager on the pitch. He really did manage our game superbly, I thought. So I wouldn't be upset if I saw Jorginho in tomorrow either. Ferg, I've given you about 10 minutes worth there, son. I'm sorry. I do apologise, but away you go, mate.
Jorginho was great Wednesday night. I thought he was really, really good. And he got us out of a couple of sticky bits here and there. He's always performed the majority of times that he's played for us. Been a good servant to the club, and I'll wish him well when he leaves at the end of the season. Because, well, me and Dan were actually talking. One of him and Partey definitely will leave, if not both. On the point about Saliba, we've only kept 2 clean sheets when we haven't had Saliba. And if you look at 2022-23, we've conceded 0.08 goals per game when Saliba starts, in contrast where 1.7 goals per game when he doesn't. Listen, on a positive, we're 12 games unbeaten in the Premier League, the second only to Liverpool, who are on 17 games. All the negativity that you hear on various channels, not here, I will add, is absolute bullshit because, 12 games unbeaten in the Premier League. Yes, we have dropped points. Yes, we have drawn too many games that we could have won. We've had some crap decisions like Bournemouth and the Rice one against Brighton and so on go against us. But we're second in the league. We're going to Wolverhampton. We're going to add to our goal tally of 34 goals against Wolverhampton. And I think that's the highest scoring side against Wolverhampton without keeping a clean sheet. I don't think Saliba will be fit, hence why I'm going to say we're going to concede a goal. There is talk about Saliba and Skelly having late fitness tests. Saliba mightn't be ready. Lewis Skelly should possibly make it. I've gone for Wolves 1, Arsenal 2.
Yeah, fair enough. I hope it's a bigger gap than that, Ferg.
Yeah,
but we're all in agreement there. But Dan, I want to just go back to this lad, right? Because Ferg's mentioned him. Skelly is just, for me, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that his confidence levels and his skill with the ball at his feet levels have been breathtaking at times this year. He really has. I think he's made that left back position his own. He's a very young man, so he's going to get swapped in and out. But I can't sing his praises high enough, Dan, and I think we really miss him, mate.
He's the bonus of the season for me. That he's an unexpected person to break into the team, and he's going to break into an area where, talking of breaking, seal might be broken now.
Breaking the seal.
Seal might be broken. Seal on his bag's gone. Yeah, he's a bonus to this season, and I think he could be the reason why not just Tierney goes, but also Zinchenko goes, because if you've got the likes of, when they're all fit, Calafiori, Miles Skelly, Timber, Ben White, Tomiyasu can all play fullbacks. We're pretty covered if they stay fit, and I know that's a big if with staying fit, especially with Tomiyasu. But he would allow, I think, Zinchenko to also leave with Tierney at the end of the season.
Really?
So
wow.
A big bonus for him to come in. But not only is he composed on the ball, like his maturity is there, but his physicality as well. Like going into tackles, he doesn't hold back, and he's a little bit fearless. Now, sometimes as young players progress, they lose that fearlessness, and I hope he doesn't, because at the minute that's what's making him the player he is. His aggression off the ball to win the ball. And his confidence to just push up and go and win the ball is brilliant. But then his confidence to come out with the ball and step into midfield, into an area that's very, very crowded, his long-term future is definitely going to be in that 6 role. And he's a player that could be with us, I'm hoping, for years and years to come. What I would say is, let's not put loads of pressure on the lad, because he has played a handful of games and he's brilliant in those games.
Yeah.
But form is temporary, and give him a bit of time.
I agree. Sometimes on 2 or 3 occasions that I can think of, he's been the last man with the ball at his feet, and he's been a little bit too confident. He's given me a heart attack nearly, because he takes a touch and beats the striker and he's the last man. And I think, oh my God, Skelly. But do you know, I was a bit worried about overplaying him, but there's 2 feet, not overplaying, putting too much pressure on him, Dan. 2 things that make me think slightly differently is that we played Saka at left back to start with. He played left back for season after season. And also, when I saw, we spoke about it in the last podcast, but when I saw the look on Skelly's face when he got booked, when he was being taken off against Tottenham, right? A lot of younger players would have had the worried look on their face then. And he was just so confident, and I was so happy with the lad. So, yeah, let's hope this is just the start of years and years of having a superb player on the books. You mentioned Tierney and Zinchenko, and I've been really pleased for Tierney and Zinchenko last few weeks. Both been getting a bit of game time. Both played really well in their own ways. Zinchenko's come back in, has just gone back into the Zinchenko mode. Tierney has been bombing up and down the wing like the good fullback he always was. I don't want to lose them both, especially not with Tomiyasu. I'd rather Tomiyasu went, to be honest, because he's had too many injuries now for me. I don't want to lose Tierney and Zinchenko, so I've got to put Ferg right on the spot now. If we had to keep one of Tierney or Zinchenko, Ferg, who'd you keep?
I'd keep Zinni.
Yeah.
Simply, he's not necessarily the better defender. He's an Arsenal fan through and through. Tierney has been injured more than he's fit. Tierney's a great player. But I've got no, like, everyone's going, oh, Tierney, when he's warming up in front of us. Don't bother me in the least. The guy's hardly played for us. He came injured. He got fit, got injured again. He doesn't fit into Arteta's style of play. The cameos he has had this season have been really good for the 5-10 minutes he's been on. But no, he's clearly not suited to the Premier League. He was almost injured at Chelsea as well. Or sorry, at Celtic as well. He just can't keep himself fit. Right. So you move him on. At least when Zinchenko comes on, he's generally available. But to be honest, I think it's almost a mute point even discussing it, because I think both players will be gone by one might be gone this window, if not both. I think if Tomiyasu was around, they'd probably they both would be gone. But I think Tomiyasu is another one who's going to go in the summer. So yeah,
I can't go in that harsh on Tierney. I think that
I'm not being harsh. I've just been truthful.
I'll be sad to see Tierney and Zinchenko go, but I'm like you. I think if not now, by the summer, they'll have both moved on. Dan, is there anything you want to come back on there? Because I'm going to move it on now, mate.
Yeah, I think just what I'd say is the answer for me is all three of them. Realistically, I would like to move on, because Tierney and Tomiyasu can't stay fit. It's not good enough to have players in and around the squad that are not playing. So I think all three will go eventually, and I think we'll bring another player in that can play both sides. But if you look at them individually, you can make a case for every single one of them staying or leaving, right? I think Tomiyasu, when he played both sides and dealt with the likes of Mo Salah very, very well. But if he's not available, there's no point having him. Zinchenko plays that role that Arteta likes in the system very well. If you had to pick a footballer out of all three of them, he's the better footballer out of all of them. He's also, though, the guy that has probably the most value and a sellable asset to reinvest in the squad. So you can argue selling him on for that reason. Tierney is the best left back of all of them, but as Fergus said, he doesn't fit the system. So what's the point having a fullback where the manager doesn't want to play him in that role? We're not going to adapt our tactics and have an overlapping fullback like that anymore. So it's also a bit of a waste. And I think Tierney deserves to play. I hope he goes back to Celtic and plays very well. I hope he stays fit. I think when he played for us, he was at one point the most creative player for our team from left back. So
I think he gave more to Martinelli when he was able to bomb up on the left wing for sure. But
I feel like he's I liked his demeanour when he came in. He seemed like a down to earth guy. I think he genuinely pleased and loved playing for the Arsenal, and the lad's done nothing wrong. So for any player that leaves the club without doing anything wrong, for me, gets a huge pat on the back from the Arsenal fans and a thank you for your service.
Exactly. And him and Zinchenko, they were both bombed out, and we've not heard a word from them. We've not heard a word
with Zinchenko.
You what?
Yeah, no issues. No issues at all with Zinchenko. I think people criticise him a lot because of his mistakes, but he gives us more on the ball. He's like first.
They've both been dropped, as I said, and they've both been as good as gold. They've not made any noises. They've played when they've been required. Look, right, so
you've done it again.
What? What have I done now?
103.23.
I know. Well, I'm just listen. Shut up a minute, will you?
That's because Fergus keeps talking.
Nearly 300 people watching us live now. I say it every week and I'll say it again. I'm truly humbled that so many people want to listen to us three waffle on about football. But having said that, I'm very happy that you do. Thank you so much. If you can go across to YouTube and press the subsidise button, it'd be very much
subscribe, not subsidise.
subscribe button. I knew what I meant. Press the subscribe button. Fergus, you've got no right calling me out, mate. If Dan had done it, I'd have said, yeah, okay, but you have got no right at all.
I'd never be so rude, mate. I think it was terrible.
Listen, I'm the one who be drinking Jameson's.
Right, anyway, shut up now. If you can press the subscribe button, very much appreciated. Helps us out with the show we can bring you. Once again, thank you for joining us. I'm going to pass you over to Fergus now, who I know for a fact is going to press the button, then he's going to see us out. Thank you very much.
hairs on your neck going, Trevor, didn't it?
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Listen,
I love it when it finishes after kickoff, and they carry on, turn the music off and let us finish it after kickoff.
Yeah.
I love it more because I know it winds people up.
Yeah. Hope you're not watching Princess. That was aimed straight at you. friendly fire, I take that as. Listen, we will be back on Monday night, 7:00, usual place. We may have the same lineup. There'll be definitely a fourth person on here. I think Alex is available back. So we change it around. We rotate it because it's a lot on everybody to give the time and opinions on here all the time. So we do move it around. Myself and Trevor will definitely be here. Dan and Alex may be here. We haven't decided on who's going, but we will try and do something ahead of the Wolves game. When we all meet up as well, we'll try and do a quick 5 minutes beforehand. Hope you've enjoyed the show.
Have you realised what could happen on Monday, mate? You've made that sound like it's just going to be a standard Monday, but it could be a lot of trouble for you, mate.
Why?
Do you know where me and Trev are on Monday?
Oh my God, we ain't going to be here, are we?
Oh, what time is your flight out?
Barcelona.
We will land there. We land there about 11:30, mate, in the morning. So we've got at least 7 or 8 hours worth of drinking.
All right, okay. Listen. People on Twitter, people on YouTube. It's a must-watch. 7:00 UK time on Monday, because these guys will be absolutely shit-faced in some bar, trying to absolutely wind me up completely, and they'll probably succeed. So we will see you two on Monday night, and I'll get some reinforcements. I'll probably have Andrew and Alex in our Dale or something like that. But, Barcelona.
Lovely. Can't wait.
Listen, we'll chat tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you guys. I'll see you in the morning. Dan, see you tomorrow afternoon. Trevor, up the Arsenal, and as always, fuck the Spurs.
Thanks for listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons or Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too. Up the Arsenal.